Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today to our Women for Solutions webinar. We are proud to share 167th Women for Solution, where we create awareness, connection, learn, and inspire to action to reimagine and regenerate our world. I'm Laura Jadaru Koch, founder of Women for Solution, a global network of thousands of women and men, entrepreneur and intrapreneur in over 40 countries that share simple, effective, and scalable solutions towards a caring economy, a system that values the key importance of wellness and people and nature. So today's fourth webinar of a series of legacy of Mary Magdalene, based on the recent discoveries, meaning the last 60 years in Egypt, in Turkey, in Greece, of authentic texts written around the 1st and 2nd century after Christ by agnostics or other learned people in early Christianity. All these texts have been reviewed and reanalyzed in depth in its authenticity by scholars in Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton University, all these huge universities and small universities. Everybody's now really working on understanding what was the message of Mary Magdalene. There's a huge number of books that have been written in the last 20 years about her, like The Beloved Companion, Gospels from the Apostles, James, John, Thomas, all that we have described in webinar 1 and 2. And today in webinar 4, we will talk about the authentic teachings of Mary Magdalene through her archetypes. And today, our scholars, Teresa Egaña, passionate about women's history, especially the ones rarely told by our universities or schools, also very learned on women archetypes. We will talk about Mary Magdalene's archetypes and Mary Magdalene's leadership today. So Tere Egaña, just a background, she's founder and CEO of Mujer Wow. She's an international and recognized speaker, a mentor on Mary Magdalene and women leadership, a psychologist, psychotherapist, and non-conflict coach, master trainer in international certifications like gender parity in the caring economy seminars by Women for Solutions, that is our organization, coach of non-conflict business, entrepreneur of a bootcamp women, wow, and Eli Ingraham, our second scholar, is CEO of Center for Partnership Systems, founded by Rian Eisler to accelerate the shift to a socioeconomic model based on the caring economy as well. Eli was formerly CEO of Sager Family Foundation, and previous she led TIE Global Artisans and Chief Network Officer of YPO. What most people don't know about Ellie, but we friends of her know, is that she ordained as a minister early on, and she's a scholar on early Christianity for decades. We are both honored to have both of Eli and Tere as board members of Women for Solution, and both very passionate about the caring economy. On this, I give you the word, Eli and Tere, to talk about Mary Magdalene's archetype and her leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Eli, again, and all of you for opening hearts and minds and everything in their life, in your life, to talk about this topic, this myth, this even lies around a woman that has become iconic for professional women and for women who are devoted to a leadership, a feminine leadership focused on caring economy. Mary Magdalene, for those who are new today, we are going to see her from a different point of view that does not belong to the last 2,000 years of history. It's a point of view that is totally independent from the church, the Christian Orthodox Church, and from, in many cases, from other monotheist religions. This point of view is completely historical and is basically supported by documents, manuscripts, gospels that were found at the end of the 1940s, 1947, 1948, and even later in Israel, Egypt, and other parts of the world. And at the time they were hidden. When they were found, they were translated according to the church. And after that, they were hidden again. And they are, since the 1970s, they are coming out into the world to be studied by a new point of view, a new way of understanding women and understanding our leadership and presence in history. So as Laura said, everything is being rewritten, re-understood, or re-signified. And we are very proud to understand Mary Magdalene in a different way. Today, we're going to talk about her as an archetype. In the recordings that you can find in Women for Solutions YouTube, you will see how we have progressed in her history and meaning in history. But today we're going to talk about her as a woman and as an archetype. Who was she and who is she? And she's a woman that has become, according to Joseph Campbell and we women and men who study her, she has become an archetype. I think she is the first woman that is understood as a complete archetype. She is the 7 archetypes of Jung. She is the heroine of Joseph Campbell's description of the journey of the hero. And she is understood also in different moments or way of expressing as a woman. And I mean sexually, as an apostle, a professional, and partner, life partner, and everything. So understanding her allows us women to understand that we can be complete, that we don't have to be a part of, but a complete being. And that's, let's say, a innovative way to understand archetypes. But what are archetypes? And these are basically patterns of behavior, of personalities, of decision-making, of beliefs of different persons. So an archetype as a pattern will say that I am an Artemis, or that maybe Eli is a Athena, or maybe Laura is a Demeter. We don't know if that will be enough for each one of us. But if we learn from Mary Magdalene, we can be not only one archetype, but all of the archetypes. According to Jung, we are 7 archetypes, and he describes them with the names of the Greek goddesses. And I mean Aphrodite, Demeter, Hera, Hestia, Athene, Persephone, and Artemis. And there is a number 8, which is Hecate, the witch, that is not usually understood as a Jungian archetype, but still is a very respected archetype. So if we understand Mary Magdalene with those 7 archetypes, then we see that as an Artemis, She works as a team. She works by traveling, while moving from one place to another, very much connected with her body, with her instincts and intuition. She's connected with nature, with a free life in a free environment. She is, as an Artemis, she's a woman that works for women and is a leader of women. And she has a word to represent women's rights. And she did so when she was with Jesus. She was totally an Artemis, and she showed that to all of us by being the leader of the 30 Marys that accompany Jesus, along with the mother of Jesus and Salome, the mother of John the Baptist, and other powerful women. Also, she is understood as an Athena. She's, even though Athena is considered a warrior, it doesn't mean that it's a woman that is looking for a war, but that she is a strategic woman that can lead a whole group to move from one place to another, and to has specific goals, specific principles in life, and she fights for those goals and she gets them. So she is always the leader, and as such, she is remembered and documented in the lost Gospels that were found in Nag Hammadi in Egypt. And also, she was, as an Athena, she was a very intelligent, very much into knowing, learning, and organizing her knowledge. And so Jesus named her as the most mature follower of his. So he taught her private teachings because only she was capable to understand them. And that is because she follows that archetype. As an Estia, she is very much into her spirituality, and with this ability to come into herself and know herself deeply, to be able to isolate herself from the rest of the world and really come into a deep, profound meditation. And as Aphrodite, she is a woman that was connected with her sensuality, and she was a free spirit, sexually speaking. And so she connected in a high level of spiritual sexuality with her partner, Jesus. And it's wonderful to know that, because as my mother said, then it means that sex is good, sex is okay. So no guilt, no shame, no sin. And also, she was a Demeter. She was a mother of a boy and a girl. And she did the highest sacrifice that a mother can do, which is allow her son to go on with his life in the hands of Joseph of Arimathea, and never see him again. And that sacrifice, she did it because of his safety. And she stayed with her daughter in South France, what we now know as South France. And from then on, a new life started for her. Also, we can understand her as a Persephone, because she's very much connected with the pain of human being. And she understands that pain. She's very much into embracing the truth of that person beyond the pain, but at the same time consoling and truly understanding the pain of men and women. And that makes her be able to go into the deepness of a human being, understand the darkness of that human being, and then transform that into a journey that the soul has to go to really free itself from what is the darkness of humanhood, and then connect with truly God in itself, in herself or himself. So the other archetype, that is the last one, that's Hecate, the witch. And that's the one that most of the people fear about, and that the church and other religion decided to, let's say, persecute them. Women who know about medicine, women who know about healing, about connecting truly the inner power of people. And Mary Magdalene, I think that on top of all the archetypes, she is an Hecate, but also she's an Hera. An Hera is the partner in life, the wife, the companion, the consort of a powerful man, as well as Athena, Athenia. Hera and Athenia always connect with powerful men, but also Artemis. And this is what Mary Magdalene did. She honored the learnings from a man that was Jesus, and from him, she became a complete, with him, she became a complete woman. Not because of him, but because they were walking together, co-leading together. So in a way, we could understand that maybe Jesus could empower himself even more as a human being by sharing his knowledge, his leadership, and his mission in life with such a powerful woman. Sexually, as a partner in life, as a partner in business, because they had this kind of business that was freeing the Jewish from the Roman Empire. As a mother, as a wise apostle, the apostle of all the apostles, as a woman herself, she has become an icon to us. Me as a professional, if I follow, which I do, her archetype, the first thing I have to understand is that my mission as a professional is to have a message that I must spread in the world and protect that message that has to do with dignity and with divinity as a right to every living being. It goes beyond to human rights. It's just dignity and divinity as a right inherent, Laura? Inherent right of all of us. And if as a professional, if following her steps, I'm focused on re-understanding the meaning of God and stop seeing God as a man or masculine or father, and understanding God as mother and father at the same time, which allows women to be part of God directly. We don't have to go through a religion or through a man or see God as a father only, but also as a compassive, heart, connected, divine being that is the mother. That we are the daughters and sons of a co-creation of female and male divinity. And following her archetype, then we women are free of shame. Total shame doesn't exist as how we see our past, what we did wrong, what we didn't do, and we try to cover up. I mean, all of that disappears because Mary Magdalene was the archetype of no sin, of no shame. So everything that we women have been taught about being the daughters of Eva, being blamed by the pain of humanity, all of that is erased by this archetype and allows us to grow as much as we want and to be totally in our leadership to connect with the tree of wisdom and knowledge and use it to share it with men who have been sharing with us good and bad things, but for sure, between all of them, good ones too. So we learn from Mary Magdalene as partners that she, extremely intelligent, wise, well-educated woman, independently, financially independent, and never a prostitute, she was humble enough to learn from a rabbi that is called Jesus. So now we women have to be humble enough in our leadership to learn the good things that men bring to our lives. And also, as an archetype, we learned from her that our life as women are in a circle, in a journey from the beginning of our first breathing in life. We go into a hero journey where we have pains, loss, teachings, earning. We have everything. We go to the Hades, to the infernal time in our life, in different times in our life, to then grow, become wiser, and share that wisdom with the rest of the world. Mary Magdalene is still in that journey, even though she's not in this earth. She still, her archetype still is in that journey, and it's just coming out of that infernal chaos and that has been around her for almost 2,000 years. And now she starts presented to us as a icon archetype that we can follow, and that free us from many stories that we have been taught, but especially from the stories that we have taught to ourselves, the one that we have written about ourselves. This means that from now on, if we really understand this archetype, we can rewrite our life, we can rewrite our past, and we can rewrite our future. We can re-understand how we see ourselves, how we not forgive, but free ourselves from lies, accusations, calumnies, even the ones that we have said to ourselves. And from then on, exist to bring the world a better world, a more wise and clean way to connect to each other and to be a society, productive women, and especially focus ourselves to connect with men again from a different point of view, and at the end, create and go beyond feminism, go beyond everything we're learning right now, and create a new society. And that's when caring economy comes in, hand by hand with men and with other wonderful women. Again, no sin, no shame, no lies, no guilt, just free to be the best that each one can be. So that's my very, very, very short explanation of what archetypes is. And what I would like to do now with Eli and Laura is to open a conversation. And of course, you, any one of you, can write any question and comments that we are going to be reading them and share about them. So Eli.
Great, thank you, Tere. I'm going to push forward a little bit. I don't like to say push back. So I'm going to say push forward, even on the notion of archetype. One of the things I love about Mary Magdalene is long before Carl Jung, decided that he was the guy to determine the female archetypes. Mary Magdalene was just, by virtue of being herself, really manifesting the kind of universal archetype of what women really always were, right? And her archetype emerges from her qualities of courage, agency, breaking societal norms, her advocacy, her spiritual depth in particular, but I think probably my favorite is that her kind of reclaiming of the feminine narrative, right? And I think you touched on this. I mean, her story, as it has been unfolded and retold, is really challenging all of these historical narratives that have really marginalized or diminished women's roles and contributions, right? And so we can use her story to kind of reclaim female agency and leadership today. And so I just want to sort of say that. I mean, I would actually love to see, women do more about defining the female archetypes. To be honest with you, Carl Jung, was born in 1875 and lived to like 1960, 61. And so that was a really different time, right? And so I kind of take a little bit of umbrage about using his, ideas of the archetype. But anyway, I invite you to take a stab at defining those archetypes.
It has been done.
Yeah.
Bolin, for example, is one of the greatest psychologists that actualized Jung proposal and adapted that proposal to a feminist and feminine way of understanding archetypes, which is the one I follow. Janshinoda Bolin is just a wonderful woman, and still we are working on it. For example, just by saying that we women can be all the archetypes together in one person, that's an innovative way of understanding archetypes. The traditional way, even for Janshinoda Bolin, will be that Jung will say one, Janshinoda Bolin will say three, and nowadays we say you can be all of them.
I love that idea because you see, when we think about archetypes, we always say like it's incrusting a person into a specific box.
Yes.
But I think that people, when we connect more with certain archetype, is because our conscious mind is more connected there with that type of archetype. But our unconscious mind has all of the archetypes. And that's why I think that we can always deep dive into our unconscious and conscious and bring forward an archetype that we actually are admiring and passionate. But going back a little bit, I want to go back to the concept that when Mary Magdalene was alive and Jesus was alive, I just want to remind everybody that at that time, women were stoned, women were objects, women had no rights, and only through Jesus and Mary Magdalene's, the religion of love, they pushed forward this concept that actually women can have rights, are free, have property, inherit, and can be priests, and can teach the knowledge of spirituality. And I want to ask the two of you, the two scholars, can you deep dive? Why is it that change happened, that was totally suppressed and killed with patriarchy, with Christianity, with the religion?
Well,
what is it that has totally blurred that and move forward to what we need today to move to a more caring economy?
Yes, well, at the beginning human life, especially when communities started to be created, and human life stopped moving from one place to another, but setting in one place, the religion of the goddess began. And human beings, and men especially, noticed that women gave birth. They didn't know that they have something to do with it. They just knew that women gave birth. So if women gave birth, then whatever was God had to be a woman. And this religion evolved for many, many millenniums. And at the, let's say 6,000 or even a bit before Christ, there was the tribes that came from the north, occupied these areas that it was more Central Europe and the Orient side of the world, and brought the male god. And this male god, at the beginning, co-lived with the goddess, and then became more powerful than the goddess. But when Abraham and then Moses came to with this new one God religion, then they decided that there could be no co-living. There only could be one God, and that one God was male. That will mean that the matrilineal power of inheriting, of having a name, of having properties, started to be, how you call it, destroyed. And they came to they killed every woman and family who believed in that. But Mary Magdalene came from one of the tribes of the 12th tribe of Judah, of Hebrews, that was the Benjamin, who still were protecting the belief of female, male divinities together. And they call it Yahweh and Asherah. And she was brought into that duality of religion. So she was called an impure Jew. And that's the woman that Jesus decided that was her companion, because even though he was a Hebrew rabbi, he had maybe, even though he came from another tribe that was the Judah tribe, he believed in the female presence in leadership. So that's pretty much what happened. It was about politics, economy, property. It was about monarchy, who inherited what, who inherits the power. And they forced societies, men and women, to only accept the male inheritance. And female became women a property of men. So Adam and Eve was created as a myth, divine myth, to justify that. But Mary Magdalene didn't belong to, even as a Jew, she didn't belong to that belief. So that's why she had this kind of, this different way of understanding female and male. The wonders of this is that Jesus did too, since he chose her.
I want to jump in here because it's,
Yes.
I would love to actually take us much further back into history, to the Neolithic cultures, okay? Because research has shown that the whole domination-based societies did not actually come about until about 6,500 years ago. Now, Mary Magdalene lived in the 1st century CE, and I'm talking about 6,500 BCE. Research has shown, and there isn't a lot, and there certainly isn't enough by enough feminine scholars. However, there is some, and I think you'll find this really fascinating. I mean, indigenous peoples have long known that peaceable, egalitarian-based cultures prevailed on Earth for millennia.
Yes.
And so if we go back in time to the culture of the Çatalhöyük in Turkey, this goes back to 6700 BCE. Think of how many thousands of years before Mary Magdalene that was, okay? It was an egalitarian society. It was a peaceable society. Archaeologists have found no evidence of war, and they have found substantial evidence of equality between men and women. So these cultures existed. Then, so that was 6700 BCE. Domination-based cultures emerged around 5000 BCE. All kinds of ideas around that. Some have actually put forward that it was when psychedelics stopped being used in these early cultures, and that had an effect. Others have said that when horseback riding got introduced, the idea of dominating, men dominating other men because they had the advantage and it kind of turned warlike, happened. Others have said when agriculture got centralized, everything changed, but it's just sort of fascinating to know. So we've got the Çatalhöyük in Turkey, then you have domination kind of entering in 5000. Then though you have the Minoans in Greece, and the Minoans in Greece were also an incredibly unusual civilization, where again, egalitarian between men and women, very peaceable, and they were around 3100 BCE. So you have this kind of a tension between peaceable and domination kind of starting and going back and forth. So if we integrate that now with our previous discussions about Mary Magdalene and the history of the Jews and all of that, so you have the Minoans as recently as 3100, still peaceable. Then you have Abraham. We all know Abraham. He came in around 2000 BCE, and we know that the history of the Jews is replete with domination. So domination was alive and well on the earth. But then in 1500 BCE in Oaxaca, Mexico, you have a peaceable civilization. Again, the balance between men and women, no war. So in pockets of the earth, people held on to peace and partnership. And then kind of overlaying that, you have the Oaxaca, Mexico. At the same time, you had Moses. It's just people don't sometimes overlay what they know about like the Bible times with what was also going on the earth. So Moses and
But you know what, Eli? The common thing between these peaceful civilizations along the millenniums was that they believed that in divinity there was the female presence.
Absolutely. And in fact, those early cultures, their feminine deity was nature.
Yes. Yes.
Right? It was, yes, absolutely, very alive and well. I just wanted to make sure that it's just so fascinating to overlay sort of Neolithic cultures with kind of what we have learned in Bible school and all that kind of stuff. So at the same time, domination was coming along and starting to prevail. There were peaceable societies. And in fact, humanity was peaceable, was egalitarian before the introduction of certain dynamics.
Yes, and one thing that for me is very important to point out is that it's not that men bring war. Is that some men and women along them with them brought the war, the conquest, the power of a force over the people who were living in peace. And they massacraron, they
Massacred? Yeah.
Not only women, they massacred men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Men, they were, for millennia, men believed in peaceful life, in the goddess, in the power of the feminine divinity. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not that we women believe that. No, men and women believe that. So this is very important to understand, because sometimes I listen to women say that we women, no, men and women, fathers, husbands, sons, brothers, they all also believed in the female divinity. And that's
Absolutely. Look at men have been robbed of their humanity,
yes.
right? It's mostly men who have been, sent to war
Yes.
by dominating men, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There just became a rampant imbalance, obviously, between the genders that has played out to our day. But I do not forget for a moment that men are also sort of victims in this
Yes.
whole situation.
Very much,
Very
indeed.
much so.
Very much.
Man has dominated man has dominated women, man has dominated nature.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And let's
But
say, for
very
example,
few men, very few and greedy men. Let's put it clear.
yes, very
Yeah,
few and
yeah.
greedy men and women, men and women.
And nature.
Yes,
Like
yeah, but I
something-
mean that greedy, that ambition of power
Mhm.
doesn't only belong to men, it belongs to women too. So we must understand that, for example, when this year in Iran, women came out to the streets, taking off, uncovering their heads for days and days, risking their life because they were claiming the right to study, to be free. And people will say, oh, these women are so courageous. And I say, they have men in their homes. And these men are risking their life by allowing them, by pushing them to go out and reclaim their rights. These men receive them back and help them, cure them, heal them, understand them, and then again gave them their total support. So it's not that that we, Laura, Eli, me, and many other human beings are fighting for is just for women. It's for the men who believe that female presence is both in divinity and in human life, in the whole creation of life itself.
Well, and then in contrast to the wonderful example you just gave, you've got autocrats like Putin who have actually changed policy so that if a man abuses his wife within the family, the repercussions of that have been reduced, right? And yes, he a couple of years ago, he actually changed the policy so that you get, if you do it outside the home, you get penalized more than if you abuse within the home, because he knows the suppression of women is essential to the rise of the autocratic regime.
Right.
It is so scary, but obvious to see in these autocratic regimes. If you look at the kinds of policies, they target certain elements of society. Women and children are a huge piece of their strategy.
Yeah, we don't have to go very far away, because when the Bible was rewritten, they decided that Adam had to have a wife from his costal rather than have an equal, as we have read in many books, that in the Jewish religion, they said that the first two people on earth, the archetypes of those two people, were Adam and Lilith, as Teresa has explained very well in many of her talks. And so even there we have that suppression to really engrave the concept of patriarchy to its maximum.
Yes, and you're right, because if we understand what this means, I mean, a God that's only a male, and he doesn't need a female divinity to create life. From then on, we are losing. We are lost. I mean, we have no meaning in any sense. If God itself, which is a male, doesn't need a female divinity counterpart to create life, it means that a man can create life by himself. Then he creates Adam, and from but not because Adam and Eva came together and procreated life, or they were created at the same time from the same earth. No, Eva came from a man. So she by herself is pretty much nothing. So if that's the beginning of the monotheism, then monotheism is awful.
Well, and look where we are, today.
We have no
Testament.
future.
Well, the New Testaments are such a distortion,
Yes.
of the original teachings, and that
Right.
I love the fact that that is becoming more and more manifest. I also want to, though, push back a little bit, or push forward, as I like to say, on using the terms patriarchy and matriarchy, because again, it genderizes it, and we don't really want to do that. We want to invite, men into this. And that is why my work with Rion Eisler, we use domination versus partnership. Because
Yes.
domination is whoever is doing it is a bad actor, right? And we
Right.
want to move society toward partnership-based practices and principles. I want to also maybe pivot a little bit to the caring economy, because I know it's essential to Laura's work in Women for Solutions. And I want to share some new statistics that have come out that tie into this. The UN recently published a report called the Gender Social Norms Index. And in it, they said that the bias against women is as entrenched as it was a decade ago, and that gender equality progress has gone into reverse. It's incredible. And what we see throughout history, we have progressive movements and then we have regressive movements. And we are sadly in a regressive time period. If
Right.
Fuller went on to say that women continue to take on 3 times as much unpaid care and domestic work as men. And it aligned also with the AARP's report that was called Valuing the Invaluable report that recently came out, that estimated that family caregivers provided 36 billion hours of unpaid care worth $600 billion in 2021. And that might only be the United States, because AARP, I don't think, is global, right? So based on our modeling, $10.8 trillion is the value of the invisible economy accounted for in our economic
Yes.
model, that includes the work of care, includes informal work, includes volunteering and
domestic work.
Correct. That the GDP that we have today is somewhere 30 to 50% lower than it should be if we included all the work provided mostly by women.
Right.
And so, by subordinating women, these domination-based systems, are able to rise. And so that is why we need women, families, and children to be prioritized and valued, so that we can counteract that. And it's not a men versus women. It's just the fact that fundamentally the work provided typically by women has not been valued
or visibilized. And the
Yeah.
interesting thing is that Rion Eisler has been promoting the concept of the domination and partnership societies for more than 40 years.
Mhm.
Why is the resistance? What are the barriers that are not moving us to more caring economy that actually Mary Magdalene way back was professing deeply about the concept of empathy, compassion, advocacy for social justice, for
Equality,
equality,
for divinity,
educational.
for
Yeah.
equal divinity rights. Yes.
Mhm.
Well, one thing is because war is a business.
Yes.
It's,
Well, everything is business, has come down to profit over purposefulness.
it's
You
the
know, what
beginning.
is wrong is the framework. We have been working, sadly now, within a domination defined and driven framework, the systems of our civilization. And unless that changes through policy changes, like if we brought it down like to something really tangible, we need paid leave, paid family leave, right? We need, men to get leave, paid leave. We need all kinds of policies and tax changes that end up changing the framework. And it is going to take generations, right? It's not going to happen probably certainly not in my lifetime.
Yes, and for sure. And
We do hope in your lifetime, Eli.
Well,
We do hope, please.
we do hope, but it's going to take a long time. But let's see something to go, to close now to a conclusion. Mary Magdalene and Jesus were fighting for that 2,000 years ago.
Mhm.
They
Right,
were
but-
fighting for that 2,000 years ago. Everybody sees Jesus like the spiritual guy, but he was a political revolutionary who
Mhm.
was fighting against taxes and laws and the way women were seen and the way poor or slavery or other people from other religions, colors,
Mhm.
nationalities. So let's forget religion and let's see them as a man and a woman who are fighting for what we now call human rights.
No, I agree.
2,000 years ago.
And at the time Jesus died, I think it is thought that he had about 300 followers. So that's not very many people, but think of his influence today. There's probably not a person on the planet that has not at least heard of him, right? And his teachings. And what I love that right now, that the sort of accurate messaging and understanding of his teachings is becoming known through things like the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Right.
And the Gnostic texts, thank God. But, the people in power want power, and they are prevailing because they are about domination. And so we need to get people in power, men and women, who embrace something different. And as women will rise into leadership, and they will start taking office, and they will start changing policy. This is what I mean by it's going to take generations, because look how look how long it has taken for women to get into positions of business leadership, positions of political power. We still talk about the glass ceiling now. This is generations after, we've been trying. So you feel with the Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z and all of these new generations, they are just not going to take it anymore. Even the whole movement toward, non-binary is all about breaking open this binary box of gendered values, right? Like things shouldn't be coded as feminine or masculine. They should just be character traits, whatever they may be, right? We've got to stop genderizing everything. Our whole system has this hidden code of gendered values where what is considered masculine is valued and what is considered feminine is devalued. And so I love, even though it's crazy making, and I have a kid who's a they, them, and I had to wrap my brain around that, I celebrate the fact that what it actually is a partnerism movement. It is a progressive movement to try to get the world to stop thinking in terms of male and female. I love it.
Maybe so, but whatever the outcome will be, it's what we need to, in my opinion, to understand, and is that our leadership is not to overcome the leadership of men, and that no religion has the right to overcome the leadership of other religions, and that we are here to co-live. We are here to share. We are here to care for each other, whatever each other think. So if there is people who are happy with the men, women, gender thing and others not, then we must respect each other.
Mhm.
That's the point. It's not because if we go again to the point of we are right, you are not, we keep doing the same thing over and over again. So
Yeah,
let's just, grow, become more mature about what respect is, what tolerance this means, and start really living according to those values, which is not easy.
Well, and some of the work that I do with Rian Heisler helps to try to simplify this for people. And one of the things I want to share right now is this, what we have going on today is this in-group versus out-group thinking, where the in-group has been typically defined by, white men, global north, right? Those sort of in power. And then everybody else is out-group, and out-groups get suppressed. And we need to shift from, diminishing and outgrouping diversity to actually valuing and embracing and celebrating diversity, whatever it is, whatever it is,
and learning from each other. Yes.
And letting, and this is the essence of systems theory, right? Where it's greater than the sum of its parts, where everybody is different and you contribute something unique, and together we make something better than we would, on our own. It's so connected to systems change and systems theory, this simple idea of, embracing and valuing diversity instead of othering difference.
And that's when we come back to Mary Magdalene and to say goodbye.
Conveniently enough.
But Mary Magdalene is, I think, that system theory came true. I mean, she's totally connected with everything in herself and with everything outside herself. And she showed it through her gospel, and we can read it through the gospel of others, other apostles who shared life along with her, the life with Jesus. So she's the archetype that we are looking to understand, to inhale, and allow it to really manifest in us, in every belief, word, and action. It's the way that we connect and relate to everything in life, because we are a system and we are all connected. One part of this system suffers, the rest of the system will decay. So it's about understanding that we are all together, even though we think or believe differently, but share one belief, and that is that we all deserve dignity and divinity equally.
And I would just sort of add my concluding remarks to that is remembering that Mary Magdalene is just one woman in a long line of men and women and people on the planet who have held down the line of dignity and peace and equality and partnership. You know what I mean? And the reason we are here talking is because we too are extending that long line of imaginal cells and people holding down the goddamn line of society so that it keeps surviving and kind of reclaims its own archetype, the archetype of peace and equality and decency and partnership.
Right.
We can't forget our own place in that long lineage.
Right.
Yeah.
So Laura.
Yeah, thank you so much. And before we conclude, I want to announce that we have a fifth webinar of Mary Magdalene in September 29th at noon, again, New York time. And this time we'll talk more about the 1st and 2nd century Gnostics and the fall and rise of the temples and the Zion order that are all related to Mary Magdalene's followers. But on that, I want to thank deeply Teresa and Ellie for their incredible contribution to be incredible movers and shakers of what really matters towards and moving towards more of a partnership or a caring economy where values and where we make valuable and visible the care of the environment, the care of the work of care and gender parity, as well as the importance of education and awareness of reskilling and metrics, because whatever we measure, we can actually change.
And whatever we value is what we measure. So if we measure it, we value it.
Exactly. We only value what we measure. We can value what we measure, and then we can really make changes towards a better world. On that note, I want to thank everybody who participated. This webinar has been recorded. I know many have come in and out during this course, but we have the 4 webinars online, and we'll be sending all the recordings and links to you shortly by email. Thank you so much, and we'll hope to see you on our next webinar.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye now. Thanks so much.